This week on RSBANDB Update, 110 Mining and Smithing arrives, and we detail the Pickaxe of Life and Death, mining changes, Primal armor, and who is best served by the new Masterwork two-handed sword. We also take a look at RuneScape Ahead and what's left for 2024 and what's to come in 2025. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 999, recorded Thursday, August 15th, 2024, picking on Primal. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week, coming down the pipe, or I guess you could maybe say coming down the forge, onto the anvil is 120, no, not 120, getting ahead of myself, 110 mining and smithing. That was not intended to be like that. That was a legitimate slip of the tongue. Pernasius, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Also joining us this week is Dave, otherwise known as Arcane in the game. Welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast, Dave.
Yep, thanks for having me. Always good to be back.
Yeah.
He's the music man.
Yeah, he's the music man.
I am the music man.
He wrote the introductions for and closeout songs for both the old school and the RS3 show, and you hear those at the start of each and every show, so big round of applause for him. But he's here because he was actually also back on the podcast in January 2019 when the mining and smithing rework came out. So we thought, let's go back and see who we had on for that episode, and you were on for that one. So I figured it'd just be interesting to touch base and see where we're at here with 110 now being the thing. So
yeah, and it's go a little bit further back even, and a little bit of trivia. Smithing was actually my first 99 in RS2. So
okay, well,
that's a little
perfect.
bit of a soft spot there for me. So
yeah, perfect,
sure.
Perfect. But of course, RSBANDB Update wouldn't be possible without our experienced here Patreon members. So big, huge thank you goes out to all of them. There's one slot still left to get something from the episode 1000 goodies. This week, I'd like to thank Amos Reed, Andrew C., Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Mr. T, Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, The Naked Captain, Tim, and Truth Ray. There's one slot left to get a special commemorative item for episode 1000. More on that a little bit later when we talk about our Patreon offerings. But if you want to follow along, you can find full show notes over at update.show. We have a community Discord at update.show/Discord, and the Friends chat in-game, which you can find at BitsBytes. All right. Let's just dive in here to 110 mining and smithing and start off with the mining side. I think that's probably the best spot to start off with here. So how does this go for you guys? What do you do first? Do you go seek out the pickaxe? Do you go mine the ores? What did each of you do first when you hit the update this week?
So I hopped in, and my first thing was to go for Pickaxe of Life and Death. That was kind of the big cool thing for me. So I pretty well hit the ground running with that.
Yeah.
And that's currently what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of on the last phase of that. But yeah, that's kind of been my experience so far. It's definitely been a journey. So
you could say that again. How about you, Pernasius? What'd you do first?
Yeah, similar thing. Logged in, it says teleport to spot. So I teleported there. It took me sort of to the mining area. So I just sort of started mining. I thought, obviously, you get all this. There'll be someone. I mean, I figured there'd be someone I'd have to speak to, but I thought it would be at the mining site. Couldn't sort of really see any new NPCs, and then people were sort of jumping up. Stars here, stars here. So, what do we need a star for? They're going, you've got to get this piece. It's part of the pickaxe. Great. So I've gone, I'm chasing stars. I've mined 2 stars.
Oh, no.
Going, how rare is this thing?
Oh,
and people
no.
go, you got to speak to Romano. And I'm going, who the hell's Romano? And it's the dwarf in Cadazo.
In Camdozel, yeah.
That's the one. I said, where we made the original ENS. And so I sort of quit that night in frustration, come back to it the next day.
And see, that's the thing, is that, they didn't document that you go talk to him in Camdozel, which, I mean, it's fine. because
I
they said
don't want
they want to
full
allow us to discover
hand-holding.
things.
Exactly, but when I saw they're doing they've done all these upgrades, all this the mining spots at Demonheim, they've updated that area. I thought they've updated it because of everyone will be going there to make the new pickaxe. I didn't realize you'd be speaking to the guy, and it makes sense after sort of I got told, but when it says teleport here, I've just you teleport to that area. There's nothing that really directs you. And
It's not discoverable
I don't want full
in-game.
hand hoarding. Exactly. Yeah, it's there should be if you do your archaeology, there's someone there you can speak to who'll give you a little hint, and that's what I would have expected for this type of thing. But anyway,
and see, the other thing that came up with this is that you're given this list of things you need to get to make this pickaxe, which, in addition to talking to him, it is the mysterious blackstone fragment from a slab on Mosla Harmless. Okay.
Yep.
It's the metallic meteorite fragment that you were talking about in the Crash Star, as well as an ensouled moonstone that is juiced up with the stone spirits of the original core ores, and then all the ore that was released this week. And another thing that did come up with this is that it feels kind of random in that regard. So my one suggestion to in effect tie this in a nice little bow is to just put a mini quest on this, right? It doesn't need to avoid a quest
would
point.
have been perfect. Yep.
And just
would have been perfect. A little mini quest
that is like, hey, you find this token or something, or this contract when you're mining on the Daemonheim Peninsula that tells you to go speak to Ramarno in Camdozel, and then he sends you off on this quest to receive the Blackstone fragment, the meteorite fragment, and then tells you about all the other things along the way. So I don't think it's necessarily bad. The one thing is that it just feels random. And I'm wondering if this came from people saying that they like the creation process for the necromancy armor, because it's kind of similar to that if you look at everything you have to do in the long run, to get to tier 80 or tier 90 on that.
Oh, yeah, but even then, we had someone we spoke to who gave us the hints about it in the area. And that was the thing here. When you click teleport, it takes you to the mining site in Demonheim. And kudos to, because, Demonheim's always been this big slab of emptiness. Now we've got sort of all these archaeology spots, all these mining spots.
Yeah.
It's, great. But, there was just having him all the way over in Cardizonal, or however you pronounce it. I always get that wrong. It just, there was just no, unless you sort of thought, graphical update, I have to go speak to someone there. And obviously many people did, but it just wasn't something that I thought about at the time.
Yeah.
But still, once it was done, brilliant, loved it.
Or did you do your star mining before or after they hotfixed that?
Well, I did the 2 stars then, and then the next day I went and talked to him, and it took me another 2 stars to get the piece.
All right, how many stars did it take you, Dave?
So I was pretty well on during a couple hours after release, and I probably went to 5 or 6 stars and got maybe 20 hits on each of them.
Oh God.
They would just absolutely, a lot of the streamers and stuff were just kind of, all the friends chats and streamers and everybody was just basically calling stuff out, so they would die with less than a minute. But
wow.
I went to like 6. It was literally, stars were not up more than 60 seconds. If you really wanted it, you had to just like be on a random world and like find it in your at the observatory or in your house.
And that's interesting because it's kind of rough in that regard for the first few hours, the people who are experiencing this content.
If I can throw out a hint to anyone who hasn't done it and are experiencing that, if you open up your mini games tab, you can click on it. It'll take you to the nearest lodestone to the star on your world.
Yeah, and thankfully thankfully they patched it so that they take a longer time to do.
Yes, and the first rock that I got after they patched that is when I got it, because I gave up because I knew there was kind of murmurings that they were going to, like, you know, fix it to where, you know, increase the health, and they did hot fix it to increase the health by 10 times. So I came back a few hours later and got to a rock and ended up getting it on that rock.
Yeah,
so
I think it took
me a little bit of both.
It took me about 3.5 stars to get mine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that must be why that took so. Because I found, well, when I got it, the last one I got was a size 7 star, and because they normally go down fairly quickly, and because we had probably a dozen people on it, and it just seemed to take a while to go down. So
yeah, and see, that's the interesting thing, is that the shooting stars are in a really interesting spot in RS3 after playing Old School, because shooting stars in Old School is the de facto AFK mining method, believe it or not.
Yes.
So to experience this and see that, you know, functioning differently, it was a bit of a culture shock, but I'm glad that it was fixed. And also, just to note, for anybody out there who's still going for this, you can actually get the meteorite fragment on free-to-play worlds.
Correct.
My last one was on a free-to-play world. So just keep that in mind with that as being the other way, or the other option for that. Then you have the Ensouled Moonstone, and this one again involves the former Master Crafter and you know, that's fine. And then I accidentally closed out of the dialogue, so I thought I just needed to do the bit regarding the Stone Spirits.
Oh, no.
So the Stone Spirits part finishes, and I'm like, oh, I'm not done. I have to mine 100 of each primal ore now.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Yeah, they're beefy. Let me tell you, I'm half done.
Yeah.
With using just the pickaxe of earth and song, it takes a long time. After I finished, of course, everyone's coming out. Oh, if you use a pickaxe +5 until your sort of bar gets to 3/4, and then switch back to the earth and song,
no,
it takes a lot.
No, who wants to be doing that?
Well, exactly. I AFK, so I would have been missing so many times. So I just did it with the Earth and Song. And as I said, I watched the entire season of House of the Dragon, mining the 100 of each ore, and finished Gen Z. I think I had one episode
and to
of
be fair,
Gen Z.
To be fair, you do get to keep the 100 of each primal ore after doing this.
Yes.
And if you make them into
nice.
primal bars, that's enough to make the +5 primal armor for the achievement. So it's not all
and
bad.
A couple of pickaxes.
It's not all bad in that.
Yeah.
And then it's 1,000,000 coins and a red berry pie to Ramarno, and then your pickaxe is upgraded to the Pickaxe of Life and Death.
And what was really good about that is I had 3 red berry pies already in my bank, because of last time making them, and they were a pain in the bum trying to run around getting them. So I just made a couple and left them in there.
You know, I'm guilty of buying mine for about 10k on the GE.
10k is not bad.
No, it's not. It's not.
Should have probably thrown them up there for that myself.
Yeah. But okay. So that's the process, and I mean, we all obviously had different experiences in relation to that, and I feel like we can, you know, give a pass to things that were, you know, patched out and fixed within the first few hours, like the shooting stars,
of course,
as well on that. And you know, the wayfinding, maybe that was just the way it was intended to be, but I feel like just, you know, a mini quest with a token, you know, pointing the way to Ramarno would have been maybe the way to go on that, but. Overall, do we like this process for making the tier 100 augmented pickaxe? Because we have woodcutting and fletching coming up down the road. So the question is, would you like to see a similar process for that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Happy
I think so. I mean, I know people are kind of complaining, but at the end of the day, I mean, most of this stuff is AFK. You don't want the best in slot, like over 99 tools to be like, oh, you know, just collect one of each thing and then you're done. Like, it should be a process. Like, sure, it kind of stinks. It could take more than 3 or 4 days, but that's kind of part of it.
That's
forcing Iron Man in a weird kind of way.
We're talking about a level 100 item here.
Mhm.
And the
Speaking of,
other option is to just go on the GE and pick up a Primal Pickaxe +5 and not have your augments. And see, that's the thing I think that makes this okay, is that if you really wanted to, you could have went to one of your friends or just to the GE on day one and picked up a Primal Pickaxe +1 or +0 even. Because I think what happens, if I look up the Primal Pickaxe here in terms of the penetration values as it goes up, penetration is exactly the same, but minimum damage, maximum damage, and average damage goes up by 5 through the process of upgrading the Primal Pickaxe from blank to +5. So, I mean, that's just 2 primal bars, and that's your other option if you don't want to go and do this, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, I think this is kind of what we, at least what the skilling community likes and wants from skilling, like stuff that's, you can't just go PVM and buy the next best thing in like an hour. Like you gotta like engage with the content, do stuff. I mean, for a tool, I mean, for achievements, you can get a little out of control kind of quickly with just meaningless achievements. But if it's for a piece of equipment that's going to help you, then absolutely. So this would be great for, you know, new hatchets and stuff like that. I definitely support it.
And it's not even as involved as doing the Necro Tank armor, the Necro Power armor.
Right.
So
exactly. Yep.
I think unless there's a huge outcry from the skilling community on this, you keep this. And I think our only question, if you do this with wood cutting, where are the wood spirits coming from?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I because when you say Iron Man it, I went and I had most of the stone spirits, but obviously the tins, the coppers, the irons, and that I didn't.
I had everyone above coal.
Yeah, I didn't buy them on the G. I went and hunted them down myself, and you know, people are looking at me going, "Why are you level 152 killing, you know, rock slugs and things like that?" And I said, I'm after the things. And it didn't take that long. You know, pickpocketing the
you're practicing for Group Iron Man, I see.
Well, I've always played semi-Iron Man anyway. I'm not going to buy what I can sort of get myself, because that's part of the fun of the game, is how do I get this? And
to be fair, I put a standing offer out for anybody in ClanQuest who needed them this week to just ask me, because like I have thousands of each one above coal, so 100 isn't going to hurt me if I give those up.
Exactly. But yeah, it was really fun, and yeah, I loved it. And as you said, you know, yeah, okay, it's 10 or 12 hours work, but you're chasing one of those top of the line weapons. Unless you get really lucky, it's going to take you 10 or 12 hours of killing to get it anyway. So it brings it in line with that sort of PVM thing for that best in slot item.
And it's not Masterwork.
Want to spend that time? You can buy it.
It's not Masterwork. We have another example of Masterwork a little bit later here.
Oh, well, yeah.
So, okay. So I'm glad that we're happy with what we got at the end of it. And I feel like the only real complaint from me is that the items just felt a little bit random. I don't get the Blackstone connection, and I don't necessarily see why
like what you
something
need for,
would
like,
just randomly come from
in.
a store. Yeah, it doesn't tie into anything, right?
They've shoehorned some extra bits in there just to,
But
like Mostly Harmless has nothing to do with well, I suppose they do.
Well, it's close to
out there, but
like, you know, I was thinking about the lore ramifications of this, and this isn't a lore, you know, special on this. But Mosla Harmless is definitely related close to the Eastern lands out there, and there was a theory at the time that, you know, that's where we had Zautak living under the sea in relation to that, and as a result of that, you have things like the cave horrors and whatnot there that have those black masks, and it's theorized, of course, is that all has some sort of link to Blackstone. So tying Blackstone and having a Blackstone slab just sitting on Mosla Harmless kind of makes sense from the lore angle.
Okay.
It was just an interesting thing about, you know, just how these kind of just random
Well,
up here.
the funny thing is, when I saw Mysterious Blackstone Fragment first off, I thought I was going to have to go and kill the Blackstone Dragon when I first read it, and then realised, oh no, it's mining it off the island.
Yeah, I think doing the Blackstone Dragon probably would have been a bit too much.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. Oh no, when I first because I've always just associated Blackstone to the obviously Blackstone Dragon.
Yeah.
But yes, but no, I 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. On that, I also do have to say that just a reminder to upgrade your ore box from Elder Rune to Primal.
Yep, first thing I did.
That is definitely something you want to do in relation to this. It only takes 2 primal bars, so if you're going to do anything at the start of it, just go, mine a collection of those even before beginning the pickaxe journey, just to have the ore box upgraded to primal. But there is more with this. There's a new achievement called Everything is Still Awesome for mining 100 each of these dungeoneering ores, and this has the wonderful side effect of increasing our ore box capacity now for all ores to 150.
Up from 140.
Yeah, up from 140. So
very good.
And again, you'll get that naturally when you go and you make the pickaxe. So you're doing it all along the way.
I would have hoped they did the same as with the woodcutting box, where it was 240. But yeah, 150 is not bad.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think. And I think you get ore slower than you get wood, if I'm being honest.
Oh, definitely.
So it kind of makes sense.
I can 110% guarantee that is the case, because I've been doing both. It takes a lot less time to fill the wood box to 240 than with elders than it does to get any of the ores.
So, just a side note in terms of how things are going here, in terms of what we might be getting with the woodcutting update, if they go the same way. Wood spirits only come from bird nests presently.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind for anybody who's wanting to plan a bit for 110 woodcutting when that arrives later this year. Knock on wood, so to speak. No?
Crickets, but I appreciate it.
Okay, fair enough. What about the primal ores running around Daemonheim in terms of, the environment and just how that feels, having these in-game now rather than needing to go into dungeoneering for them? Is this the admission that dungeoneering is done and we can just stick a fork in it at this point? That we're starting to get these Daemonheim benefits on the surface?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the soapbox, I guess, for a little bit. To, I guess, rate this update for me, I may have to go in. I don't want to be too critical because I love what they're doing, and I don't want them to think we're not appreciative of this. But I'm going to go with a 7.5 or 8, only because I think there's an element it's a lot of content from 100 to 110, right? I guess I'm a little slightly bothered that they just copy pasted things from Dungeoneering and brought it to the surface. I don't want to call it lazy, but I would have liked to see, and again, we still have 10 more levels to explore, but just new things. So I don't want it to be a slippery slope where 110 woodcutting and fletching is just grave creeper all the way. It's just bringing Dungeoneering to the surface. I don't want that to be a trend.
I think for woodcutting it should definitely be something like redwood, copying from old school.
Right.
To that effect.
Sorry.
With that.
Yeah.
But I get you on the grave creeper thing. And I mean, even if you look at the 99 to 110 skill guide, it's level 100 Pickaxe of Life and Death, Primal Pickaxe, Primal Mining, and then from there it's better rock opportunities, more primal storage in the ore box, Primal Rocks double ore mining, higher crit chance, more critical swings, more Primal rock opportunities, improved Primal Rocks double ore mining, higher chance at finding geodes, and then a higher critical swing against Primal Rocks at 109.
Like to me, just from someone who's played the game for I'll get my 20-year cape in 2 months. When we get like a skilling update, I like to see brand new things, or an improvement to something else, not just kind of, again, I don't want to call it a reskin, and I don't want it to sound like I hate this update, but like
it's a very good update.
And be like, oh, absolutely, very, very good. I just don't want it to be their solution to a quick fix of like, give them content, just pull everything out of Daemonheim and like call it cool, and then 110 to 120 will actually bring new stuff. But like, even with the mining and smithing rework 5 years ago, it was cool because it's like, oh, we have luminite, we have bainite, we have new catalyst ores,
Rune
so to
isn't
speak,
level
and we
99. The rune plate body's not 99 anymore. That's 50 defense. That's absolutely useless.
Right. It's, you got new catalyst ores, you got new elemental ores, so to speak, going with how kind of magic works, but you just got brand new things into the game rather than just pulling things from, call it a mini game, call it another skill, and make it in that. It just, the little bit of the luster was lost for me. Again, love the update, but I just don't want it to be where they're just kind of regurgitating things and masking them as, ooh, it's like new, more content. Because like you said, you unlock everything at 100. Like, you can do everything at 100. You just get more benefits up to 110, where it would have kind of been cool. Admittedly, we would have gotten less content if we got maybe 2 more catalyst ores and maybe 3 or 4 kind of base ores. You wouldn't have had like the primal bars. You wouldn't
rather than
have
just giving you the 10 Daemonheim ores to make primal bars, is what you're saying.
Correct. So we have a lot of content. It's just not new content. It's kind of refreshed content, so to speak.
And I think the thing we walk away from with woodcutting on this is twofold. One is that we have to know going into that is that we're getting, and this was in the RS Ahead, which we'll be talking about later, is that it's going to be a new tree and a new hatchet amongst some other things. But I think with woodcutting, you do need to look into maybe some of the retiering stuff that was done initially for the mining and smithing stuff, if this is going to, 110.
Oh, I agree. I mean, again, when you kind of just pull back the curtain, so to speak, I mean, this update gave us new pickaxe, new ore box, Masterwork two-handed sword, because technically, like, primal equipment existed beforehand. All of the ores exist. Yeah, correct. Yeah, they existed like in the game. So, I mean, again, great update. It's just I would like to see just new content, like you said, a few new trees for woodcutting and fletching and stuff, and then, not just kind of.
Yeah, and because you have the Imkando hatchet at tier 80, so is the new hatchet going to be tier 90, or is it going to be tier 100 to keep in track with what we just got for this? Or do you do some retiering of the woodcutting equipment? Maybe that's the retiering that happens. I don't know. But the point throughout all of this is that there's learning in here for woodcutting and fletching. Specifically, I think, on the woodcutting hatchet retier, and maybe even the woodcutting tree retier. I don't know. Pernesius, what do you think?
Well, again, I want to sort of go back to when they did the Slayer to 120 update, and everyone complained that there was not enough content in levels. We've got 10 new levels of this, or 11 new levels and 10 new ores. I don't think you need something at every level. Every 2 or 3 levels would be enough. I don't mind if they bring some of the trees up, but yeah, redwoods, ironwoods, there is a lot that they could do going forward. As I said, I don't mind because I don't do dungeoneering anymore. The Primal armor is a good-looking set of armor.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yes.
Yeah, and it had a purpose, It wasn't, they were bringing it up and making new armor. I can sort of see Arcane's point on, he would have preferred totally new ores and catalyst ores and such, but I think it worked on this, but I agree that it probably wouldn't have that same feel if we just cut and paste
As in,
the
when
trees up there.
110 woodcutting comes, don't give us Daemonheim woodcutting.
Yeah, I don't think that would work that well there.
You don't think that would work well for the wood?
No. I mean, it would work, but I don't think...
The wood would work. The wood would work for the wood, as you're saying now?
The wood would work for the wood.
Yeah. But again, it's... Primal is... I mean, it's always been that aim down there. Your primal armor, your primal weapons. So that made sense to bring that to the surface. But your grave creeper bows and all that type of stuff. I mean, we've already got a hex hunter bow in game that comes from the Demonheim creature drops. So you're not going to be making that with those trees and things. So I think they do need to look. Maybe re-tiering. I don't know if you want to go through that much work on the lower end, considering most players are sort of in that 80-plus range now. But, it'll be interesting to see how they do it. I am really looking forward to it. Yeah. And as I said, I mean, this almost hit the bullseye. I mean, I have no issues whatsoever with it other than, obviously, that first one. And that's more...
That's just teething issues getting into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone else was able to work it out, I guess, and I didn't. So, hey, maybe it's a me issue.
All right. Well, let's get into the smithing side of it. One thing I was pleasantly shocked about, like you were mentioning, Dave, is that you didn't need any of those secondary ores for it. You just combine all of the Daemonheim ores, and you get something like 5 of the primal bars, which I thought was really neat. Mm-hmm. For that, but
fantastic with your scroll of efficiency too.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to talk about the primal equipment, specifically the primal armor set, because that is the achievement that is needed going into this for comp. You got to make the full set up to +5, and you do get enough primal bars in doing that of mining 100 of each ore. And there's also the primal sword and the primal kite shield as well, if you wanted to make those. Now, here's the interesting bit on this, and I feel like we were maybe a bit spoiled when it came to the necromancy armor, because what this stuff is, like the primal +5 plate body, for example, it is a level 99 defense requirement that gives you level 90 melee tank armor. And that's really the story behind this. And I think the expectation was, emphasis on expectation, after the necromancy armor, and we've been referring to that a lot here, is that I think a lot of people were thinking that let's do the exact same sort of thing that was given for the necromancy armor in this case. But I actually myself see it a bit differently. And here's why, and you guys can tell me if you agree or disagree on this. I see it differently because, first and foremost, if you look at the necromancy armor, there is a ton of other requirements to that in addition to having the levels to make it. You have to do all of the various Killy Row achievements. You have to include things like the spun wool that's been ensouled, and then the ensouled equipment that you get from Zamorak, and so on and so forth. Whereas if you just compare this primal armor, it's just 384 bars, primal bars, for a full set of +5, which requires 100 mining to gather the requirements to mine that, and 100 smithing in order to make it, with 99 defense to wear it. So what I see this as is I see this as your budget Slayer armor. That's what I have to say on that. And a lot of people, are saying that it's kind of, they don't see a use for it in that regard. But I'd wager that for the majority of players out there who don't min-max and just play the game casually, as in people who are never, going to go out there and buy a set of armor that comes from a PVM drop for hundreds of millions of coins on the melee side, this armor that you get right here for Slayer is going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I think a kind of a budget Slayer armor is a good analogy. I think I would have to agree with you there for sure. It's definitely not as involved as the necromancy
or even Masterwork.
or Masterwork. Yeah. So I mean, this is I think that does have a niche use case for sure.
Yeah, because the Masterwork is obviously the power armor option, and this is the tank armor option, which didn't exist before. And if you compare those two, you can kind of understand exactly where that comes from on that. So I don't really have that much of an issue with this, I do have to say.
It's a step up from the Tetsu armor, which actually does degrade too. So this doesn't degrade. Tetsu, again, it's a tier 83 tank armor that has 85 defense requirement to wear. I think it suits it. It works properly. As you said, I mean, tank. If you're bossing, you're not wearing tank armor
Exactly.
anyway. The big bosses. It's great because your masterwork, if you wear that outside of a Slayer task, it degrades. So
and it's also got
the
benefit of turning some of the incoming damage into a bleed, if I remember correctly in terms of what the set effect is on that. And I mean, maybe there's an option that there could have been a set effect for this, but again, you're not going through the entire process of making tons and tons of glorious bars and then infusing it with various essences.
Exactly.
It's not Masterwork level.
Yeah.
Masterwork is its own thing.
Exactly.
Which we also got this week. So I don't know if I'm going to make the Masterwork two-handed sword.
I think it's a wreck in the end. I'll do it eventually, but it's not something I'm racing out to do at this stage because it's not something I'll actually use. I mean, I use necromancy. If I don't use necromancy, it'll be back to magic.
Exactly. Because, and see, that's the thing. The question is, again, a really good weapon for people who just want to make things in game and have them. But if you are going to be min-maxing the melee combat style, you're probably going to want something that can work at halberd range. You're probably going to want to work something that has the bleed effects associated with it, like the Masterwork Spear, for example, in there. So I don't necessarily know if this needs to be as good as people are wanting it to be. Fun fact, in terms of building this, you do need essences from chaotic weapons. The weapons from the Twin Furies, the Blade of Nomura or the Blade of Avarice, and from Drygor weaponry. So Twin Furies and Kalphite King is back on the menu.
Which is actually good for me because the Twin Furies, I'm still chasing one of the pets, so
yeah,
it gives me the reason to
you
go
know,
back and chase
it makes sense why they chose the Twin Furies, because I think out of all the generals in God of War's Dungeon 2, the Twin Furies drops are probably the least valuable.
And the same Drygors aren't worth anything these days either.
No, but they might be now.
They will be now.
Through this and the fact that Kalphite King is kind of an annoying boss to kill, unless you're massing it. Though apparently you were saying it can be soloed, I think, right?
Apparently you can solo it these days, people have been telling me, so...
You know, back when I was going for Reaper, I did Kalphite King as a mass, and at the time, the value proposition for going back in a duo just wasn't there, so I really haven't gone back to Kalphite King since I got my kills for Reaper. So
I got my one kill there as well for Reaper, and...
It would be interesting to go back and see where all this lands now, I think. But
as I said, I mean, I have no issue with them sort of trying to bring life to dead content, sort of quotation marks.
And I also want to underscore here that this is, again, alongside the Primal armor, this sword is not necessarily meant to compete with the PVM side of things. It's not.
No.
Because, I mean, you might make the argument that you can take this two-handed sword and just use your Zuck sword in a EOF spec and you can, have the same performance. But the reality of it is that you can upgrade that Zuck sword now to tier 100, so it's on par with this. But 10 glorious bars you're looking at, 1,001 primal bars, which, for the curious, a Primal bar is made I was talking about glorious Primal bars that you need to make in terms of this. You need to combine those Primal bars with the glorious bars to make glorious Primal bars throughout this entire process with this. You also need 10 gold bars, the Moonstone, those essences we were talking about, undead dragon leather, just one of them from Vorkath, brown dye, and the whetstone, or access to an armor stand in the POH. And that's how you make this sword.
Okay.
Now, are either of you going to make this?
Eventually, but I'm not
Yeah, I
racing
say
it.
eventually, but I'm not hitting the ground running, chasing after it. I got other things that take precedent over that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the interesting bit about this is, does something like this need a set effect? Does something like this need a special attack?
I think because you're adding chaotics and Drygor weaponry and the twins weaponry, I think it should. You are still including PVM items into this T100 weapon, so I think you should. It should be just as good as anything that comes from PVM.
Now, here's the counterpoint to that. If you look at the Masterwork Spear of Annihilation that comes from
Love that.
our favorite archaeology dig site where you get the tip there, the difference on that is that that's an aha drop moment. And that's what has been able to propel that weapon to be in a good spot, is that it's not just made straight from the equipment that you get mining from the ground.
Yeah, but again, as I said, this isn't just equipment you mine from the ground. You have to have... Oh, well, okay, chaotics are easy because you just buy them with Demonheim points. But Drygor weaponry and Twins weaponry you have to go... They are, as you say, aha-type moments, getting those as drops. So...
But they're more common than the Spear Tip of Annihilation.
Oh, of course they're more common, but it's also the weapon's not going to be as good as the Spear of Annihilation either, because the Spear of Annihilation has the 2 tile range, where this is only the 1 tile
the bleed
range.
and the bleed proc on it.
I mean, that's it. I mean, Spear of Annihilation is the only weapon I use if I do melee.
Exactly.
Again, as you said, this is dead content, really. If it doesn't have any, it doesn't have to have a special as good as, but it should have something that makes it stand out a little bit. And again, this is just coming from it. I mean,
from a non-PVMer, that surprises me.
Yeah. Because it's like, well, why am I gonna go and spend 12 or 14 hours making this? And if I can't go and kill Kelphite King myself, I'll have to buy the Drygor weaponry to break down for the essence. Why am I going to be bothered?
Now
to
you
go
tell
and
me
do
if
that?
this is a good argument to make or not. I'm going to say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because of necromancy.
Yeah, well, again,
and I don't know if that's a good argument or not. It doesn't matter because of necromancy.
It doesn't matter because melee is really the redheaded stepchild of the
well, see, the interesting
now.
thing is that depending on who you talk to, it's either right behind ranged or tied with ranged if you know what you're doing. But you just got to be willing to get up close and have all the switches for it.
I was going to say, it's part of Switchscape, and 95% of the players aren't interested in Switchscape.
And that's what this style is at the high level PVM. So that's why I think it doesn't matter, because if you're a normal person wanting something for mid to high level PVM, go necromancy. On the other hand, I think that the Masterwork two-handed sword that we got this week is probably a good add-on for people who want to do Slayer.
But why wouldn't you just get as you level up and use your Spear of Annihilation?
Because this is
Why
cheaper
would you
than a
go
Spear of
through-
Annihilation.
Why would you go through all the effort of trying to make this when if you're doing Slayer with melee, just a basic set of Drygores is going to be enough. You're
looking at the Spear of Annihilation is close to 300 mil.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. But
Whereas with this here, you're looking, once prices settle, you have to realize that, like you said, the chaotic essence that comes from your dungeoneering weapons, you're probably at this point going to have the tokens for that. So that one's spoken for. And then the Calphite and demonic essence, when you break down a weapon, one weapon gives 2 essence. You need 4 total. So basically, you need a main hand and an offhand of a single Drygore weapon type and one of the weapons from the twins. And, based on what we saw where we were at with the twins this week, I don't necessarily know what the prices are on these, if they've gone up since then, but those were, under 5 mil each. So.
Oh, yeah, I
so
had to sell them
at the grand, like at the end of it all, the Masterwork two-handed sword is a tier 100 weapon that you get for a fraction of the price of the Masterwork spear.
Okay, yeah. It has damage of 2235 and requires 99
attack.
99 attack to have. Okay, your Primal two-handed, which is a lot easier to make, has a damage of 2011, so it's only 20 less damage. Still has the 99 requirements, but is it worth all that extra pain to do
for the
something
20?
That's only for 20 damage points? I mean, you're looking at time, you're looking at money, you're looking, it's the only reason I am going to make a Masterwork two-hander is because there is a completionist achievement on it. That is the only reason I will be making one. And then it's just going to sit in my bank and do nothing. You can't even put it into a Essence of Finality because there's no special with it.
To be fair, the Primal two-handed sword is a tier 85. I was looking at the base one. So accuracy 2458 versus for the Masterwork, two-handed sword 3100. I mean, that's not insignificant.
Yeah.
And damage is 2011 for the +5, and for the Masterwork is 2235. So it's about 200. So you are going to feel that. But again, you're not going to be using this in the end game PVM situation where you need this, because the end game melee build is so reliant on the Abyssal Scourge and other things that lean into that bleed.
And the other thing is, I mean, this is basically going to be a Slayer weapon. There's no Slayer creature out there that requires anything above a T90.
Not yet. And if it does, you, again, use Necromancy.
Exactly.
I think we've just talked ourselves into a corner here of questioning where exactly this Masterwork two-handed sword is going to be used.
That's right, without a special. So as I said, you can't even throw it on an Essence of Finality because there's nothing about it that is going to make anyone want to use it over and above everything else that's out there, whether it be Necromancy. If you are a melee person, I mean, really, you're going to...
So it really needed a passive or a special attack?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, just to make it a little bit more shiny, so to speak.
But then would you have had people complaining then that devalues the tier 100 Zuck sword?
Well, no, because it doesn't have to be as good as the Zuck sword.
But it would be on damage par. Like it's a tier 100 with the same.
What's the special on Zuck?
I think it's a burn. Let me just pull that up. right now. RS3, Easy K, the Exekill. So it works
Special
with the Berserker
attack.
necklace. That's what it's already got.
Igneous
going for
Cleave.
it. Igneous Cleave. 50% adrenaline, 60-second cooldown. Cleaves the target for 110 to 140 ability damage, inflicting a bleed of 6 hits. And the first hit of the bleed deals 60 to 75% ability damage, and each hit deals a multiplicative 5% increased amount of damage from the previous. The initial hit combined with the 6 bleed hits does 518 to 650% ability damage.
And it can be boosted up to between 1286 to 1610 in optimal conditions. It could be boosted with gloves of damage and such. It doesn't have to be that effective. It could be something that does that has it doesn't have to even be a bleed effect. It can be something on one of the other sides. It can be just a little passive effect. I'm not saying it has to be as good as this, but it's got to have something on it because it's just
right. Because I know it's not going to get used in PVM, and the only use case I see for it is a budget Slayer weapon for somebody who doesn't want to spend the 300 mil on a Nox Scythe or the Masterwork Spear of Annihilation.
And as you said, it's like
that's the use case we're talking about here. It's really, really narrow. Really narrow.
That's right. And the only reason people are going to be making it at the moment is because of the
it's a trim requirement.
Yep. So there's probably not even going to be that many in the marketplace to buy anyway. So you'd have to make your own. Are you going to spend that 12 or 14 hours making?
Oh wow, Nox size is up to 370 mil.
Which again, it sounds like a lot, but the way money comes into the game these days, that's not a lot of money.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, I'm keen to leave it there. Listeners can let us know where they land on that, because I see, if anything, a very, very narrow use case for this, and I think we'd be having an entirely different conversation if it had a passive on it or a special attack.
Yes. Yep. I see no use case on it, really. But yeah, it's there if you're going for all your trim requirements. And again, people who are, it is a level 99 requirement, so it's even.
Or here's the other thing. Let's just remember that this podcast serves the land of the average, the land of the average RuneScape player. For people who don't have the ability offhand, who are skillers by their nature, don't have 300 mil kicking around. I think there's players out there who don't have 300 mil kicking around that can't pick up a Masterwork two-hand or a Scythe.
Fair enough, but I mean, again, once you're 99 attack, basically it's asking you to be sort of maxed melee. If you don't have 300 mil lying around at maxed melee, what have you been doing? Are you just throwing all your money into sort of buying herblore stuff or that type of thing?
I don't think I had 300 mil when I maxed, but that was a different era.
I was going to say, that's a different era. These days, I mean, my alt has 300 mil in it, and he's like all level 80s. Yeah, he's got almost a bill sitting in his pockets at all level 80s and a couple of 90s. So, it's... And again, drop 3 bonds if you're really that worried.
I don't like telling people to do that, but yeah, that's that's the other option as well, I guess. So,
but again, I mean, hey, great, it's in there. It's that. I don't see any use. The only thing, as I said, I will make it because it is a requirement, but it's something I'll make and then sit in the bank and never touch.
All right, fair enough. Dave, anything else on that, or are we right?
I think I think you guys pretty well hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I agree. He basically needs a little bit extra something to have a use case. Otherwise, it's just it's just there. So,
all right, fair enough. Well, before we move on to the to the patch notes for the week. Just a big, huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters for allowing us to do what we do here. This week, I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Brayton K., Chilbura, Daniel W., Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Guy Lafleur, Jacob G., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Mr. T., Pernasius, Ricky A., Rippeth, Robbie D., Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Targaryen, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Truth Ray, Ukulele Steve, and Zant. Big, huge thank you to everybody out there. And, of course, episode 1000 is next week, and we do have one opening left in the Experience tier slot. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because the people who are signed up for Experience tier by the time episode 1000 comes out next Friday are going to receive a special once-in-a-lifetime collectible item from RSBANDB Update. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, sign up for the Experience tier. We have one slot remaining for anybody who is going to be interested in this. Of course, as well, we also do have our other tiers, including the starter tier at $1 a month. For that, you'll receive a special mention in our show notes each and every week, as well as access to an entire back catalog of monthly bits or bonus shows that we record at the start of the month. And this one is on the topic of skill expression in RuneScape. And, you know, we talked about all sorts of things. We talked about skill bosses. We talked about skilling encounters and lean forward skilling. And yeah, we did miss a few things on the lean forward skilling side, like the accidental fletching and stuff. But I think we did wind up in a very interesting spot when it comes to what skill expression is in RuneScape. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can sign up at patreon.com for as little as $1 a month. And we also do have other monthly bits available, things talking about EOC, tier lists on things like Dailyscape, and even the skill and quest tier list as an example. All of that and more at patreon.com/RSBNB. We then have our VIP tier, where for $3 a month you receive a special VIP rank on Discord and chat channel access, which includes a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, plus stereo versions of the show, in addition to everything else. And we also do have the Insider tier, where for $5 a month you get a shout-out on the podcast each and every week, and exclusive outtakes that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year, in addition to the RSBANDB Update Christmas card, which this week, this one time, anybody who's signed up by the time episode 1000 goes live will receive a special episode 1000 card as well. Patreon.com/RSBNB. Thanks so much, everybody. And I've been asking the panel that's been on for the past few weeks here, do either of you have a guess as to what the episode 1000 item is going to be, the limited time collectible?
Ooh.
You ask. You go, Dave, because you ask me every week, and I have no idea. I did say an NFT before.
I'm
before
not doing an NFT.
Because we know Shane loves those.
I'm wondering if it's some sort of framed, handwritten show notes, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, that's a fun idea. It's not that. It's not that.
It's an expensive idea, but yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily know that would be...
Carpal tunnel?
I don't know that would be a good idea for people who have seen the handwritten edit notes before.
Well, and I guess I was going back more to like beginnings, like some of the first episodes, like it's scribbles you had maybe or something like that. Not like this week where it's just woof, like it's a whole other publication.
Unfortunately, those get thrown out as soon as the week is done. I do plan to start just north of episode 1000 in the RuneScape book for show notes, like the journal book. I do plan to start the show notes in there. For that, but yeah, the show notes just get written on a little piece of paper, then thrown out, unfortunately. The edit notes, that is. So that's a good guess, though, and there will be an option to get the edit notes for future episodes going forward at some point. So Patreon.com/RSBANDB. All right. So in addition to the 110 mining and smithing stuff here this week, they did tweak a bunch of other things with mining and smithing, including there were some offsets in terms of how Bane and Elder Rune were performing, both in terms of their pickaxe penetration and the rock hardness. So effectively what they did is they lowered the penetration by 5 for Bane and by 10 for Elder Rune, but also lowered the hardness of each of those by the same margin too. So it's the same thing at the end, it's just different numbers. And I guess that fits just better in with where the Daemon High Moor sits.
Yeah, and the problem is, you need good hardness to get sort of good penetration, and sort of when you're lowering both, does it really matter?
No, because you're at the same spot at the end of it all, really. When you wind up using the Primal Pickaxe or the Pickaxe of Life and Death. So. Also, Primal Stone Spirits have been added to a number of loot tables out there. They replaced animal crystals on the metamorphic geodes. They replaced earth talismans on the super rare drop table. The Raptor's Chest of Slaying will have it as part of the Stone Spirit and Salvage drop. Triskelion Treasures have them now. Raksha used to have Carambola seeds, and the Primal Stone Spirits have replaced those, added them to Raziel, replaced Bane Stone Spirits at Solak, replaced Catendine Seeds at Nex AOD, added to both versions of Karapak, replaced U Logs at Beastmaster Durzag and Yakamaru, replaced Fire Talismans at the Edamus. That's an interesting one. Haven't heard about those in a long time.
Yeah.
Calgarian Demons replaced Tiny Spiked Salvage and added to the drop tables of Seekers and Soul Gazers. So I guess that's where we find our Stone Spirits now, the Primal Stone Spirits. And they said they added them to these drop tables with the intention of keeping them somewhat steady in supply compared to the other Stone Spirits. For this reason, you may see them drop in lower quantities and at lower frequencies than you'd expect. As this is a new update, prices will adjust accordingly. We have not intended this as a buff or nerf to any particular loot table, and we'll keep an eye on data and feedback as time progresses. You know what this tells me? It's that Raziel's GP per hour is going to go up, and Karapak's GP per hour will go up, because Karapak is already a very profitable boss to kill, given the way the Jazz pages are expensive. So I see those ones as being neat, and I think everything else pretty much makes sense on that list. Any of them stand out to either of you?
No, not necessarily. I think it's nice to breathe life back into those bosses. Not that they were necessarily dead, but just kind of reinvigorates the, just maybe getting back into PVM. And it's always nice to see loot tables adjusted, even if it's minor, especially with an update like this, just to kind of resurge.
Yeah, like the interesting one
activities.
Is how many of the other things on Raksha's drop table can you do this for? Because Raksha's drop table is utter garbage aside from the codices that you get there.
Right.
So there's that. Edamu's caught my eye, and I feel like Seekers and Soul Gazers as well is something that I don't think about too often, but I'm not a Slayer person, so.
Yeah, I mean, getting rid of fire talismans, and I mean, seeds are just worthless these days, so doing that is good. I mean, obviously U logs, then they're not worth anything. Again, I'd love to see them start before the mining, sort of the woodworking update comes out, that they start replacing logs with wood spirits.
Yeah, because we already went through.
I know that's contentious, but
well, we already went through how hard it's going to be to get all the wood spirits for 110 wood cutting, right? So
yeah, if they do it that way, but I mean, it's I hate primary drops being dropped by the creatures. I know wood spirits are, the stone spirits and wood spirits are contentious, but I'd much rather see them replaced with those to help people speed up that rather than just getting straight drops that you either just break down or throw as junk on the GE.
Yeah, I agree. And they and for example, the Beastmaster Durzag one and Yakamaru one, that one makes total sense there. And I think that's probably the sort of thing you have to do as you head into the discussion of drop tables before something like a woodcutting.
And replacing those stupid anima crystals, that's good
too. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. The smithing interface now has a makes X quantity slider to allow creation of multiple projects at the same time without reopening the interface.
Was so good because I always make multiples. So you sort of click on one, then you got to right click it, and then right click it and click it. Now I can just go click, make 10 of them, and just sit back and let it go.
And also, we didn't talk about it here, but just reminder for the auto heater in its advanced mode that can kick you up to, I think it's 60% heat, and
does it chew through your coal though?
Yeah, well that's fine. I mean, just go to Miscellanea for a bit, right?
Oh yeah, it's no problem at all. But like I had so much coal, and when I was making all this stuff, I mean, I just clicked it and just let it run at 60 while I was watching TV. And I'm going, geez, why have I only got 300 coal left?
Oh boy, yeah. It was nice getting back into the smithing side of it, and just using the full setup there. Unfortunately, I didn't have the Taga hammer.
The core hammer?
Yeah, the core hammer. Yeah, but
as soon as they announced the mining and smithing thing, I went straight to the G and bought one because I knew they were gonna shoot up.
Yeah, and that's another good thing for Croesus, I guess, in terms of just increasing the value there.
Yeah, I was going for the jump. It was going for like 500 mil, I think, day after release.
God damn! Wow. Armor spikes
down against Inspit, yeah.
They're now tradable on the GE with a buy limit of 10,000, but they will require the smithing level to create them in order to use them.
Yep. When I was doing melee, I mean, armor spikes are actually quite good.
Yeah, they are good.
At the time.
They upped the smithing requirement for the abyssal ones from 1 to 99. That was an error that it was listed as level 1. They also changed the proc chance on the abyssal armor spikes secondary effect from 25% to 100%. And the interesting thing about this is that when you use them, they, of course, deal damage to enemies who attack you from adjacent tiles, right? But what it does is it has the Abyssal Parasite passive effect, which is that melee bleed. So what it does is it just adds more stacks of it to deal more damage. And it was only proccing at 25% chance before, so this is another way to amplify the Parasite melee bleed. So that's good from that angle. And that was one of the things we complained about when these abyssal armor spikes came out. And the other thing is that, well, the Slayer creatures that drop the abyssal flesh didn't drop enough flesh to really make it sustainable. So you got to kind of use the abyssal spikes in a sense where you're really, really wanting to geek out as much of that bleed damage as possible. So that's a really neat change this week. They also upped the buy limit of abyssal flesh from 500 to 5,000 with this. So I'm wondering if those abyssal slayer creatures are probably being slept on in terms of the amount of money that they.
Oh, they've always been decent money.
Produce. Yeah. Oh, they are good.
Yeah, they've always been decent. Not boss good, but they've always been good, steady money. Several mil an hour easily.
Yeah, I know people would AFK them in the wilderness when they were doing their necromancy training.
Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully the flesh market is. That sounds weird to say. Hopefully the flesh market is doing well this week.
Little uncomfy there.
Oh boy. The family quest.
It was a bit light on the flesh, but anyway.
What?
I was saying it was a bit light on the flesh. You know,
they didn't
500
drop
now,
enough
you can get
flesh then.
5,000. Yeah. No, they dropped enough, but yeah, it's up from 500 to 5,000 was the buy limit. You know.
Yeah, so they were a bit
Makes
light
it,
on the flesh.
yeah.
Okay, I get
That's
it. Of course, the
flesh light.
episode turns weird at some point, right?
Oh dear.
It's flesh light, but now it's flesh steady.
Moving on. The family crest
Sorry.
quest is no longer required to store silver and gold in the ore box and metal bank. The quest still unlocks the smelting gauntlets.
Boo.
This is a major quality of life change for
It
mid-level
is.
players. Let's be honest about that.
Oh no, it is good. I just anything they take off quests
Yeah.
I don't like. But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the smelting gauntlets are still very big and very important with this. So, during Defender of Rock, you can now interact with the Sacred Forge to use Blurite on it and to start the cutscene. Okay, that's a throwback.
Wow.
A long one, yeah.
Cam Dozel has been graphically updated, as well as making some slight adjustments to the start of the Sacred Forge cutscene. Okay, there you go. They also fixed an issue where switching between different Essence of Finality abilities caused both special attacks to trigger. You want to bet that people weren't using this to their advantage?
I was going to say, wow, I wonder how long that's been in, and I'm sure people are so happy this has been fixed.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's very clearly a bug. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
So, the giant end familiar should now affect the yield of cactus spines and cactus potatoes, as it's supposed to. Hiding Invention cogs no longer unsheaths weapons when equipping new armor. The hide cog toggle now works on the crystal pickaxe mining animation. And finally, My Arms herb patch will now correctly tell you which seed is planted when inspected, and the Scroll of Life will now also work with this patch.
Jeez, that's a long time.
Yeah, but, you know, hey, herb farming still a very good money-making method.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's patch notes for the week, everybody. I think it's time to look at what's happening for the rest of the year and heading into 2025.
Exciting times.
It really is. It really is. They put out the RuneScape Ahead post, and for the folks listening, we are recording this on the Thursday, so we will be back next week with the commentary on the live stream that's happening on the Friday. But we now have the roadmap going through to spring 2025 with a little peek in terms of what's coming in late 2025. Okay. All right. So here we are. Coming up, we have the new skilling boss, which is the Gate of Elidinus, combined with a new story quest called the Ode to the Devourer, and there will be a launch event called the Gate of Elidinus Hunt associated with that, and they have that as the first update for autumn. Which, I mean, we knew that one was on the way, so that's all fine and dandy, I think. We also have, heading into fall proper here, we have the new seasonal event, the Harvest Hollow 2024 Halloween event, which takes a page from the Blooming Burrow and the Christmas Village. Be interesting to see how that goes, because I feel like Halloween in the recent years has always been one of the weaker offerings, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We also have a new Necromancy Conjure ability on the way in this same general time frame as well. The Phantom Guardian, which is going to be a Necromancy Conjure that actually tanks damage for you. We were talking a while back about what they were going to do for this and whether or not it was going to be more power creep, but the Phantom Guardian says it will absorb some damage while using Necromancy and in turn turn that damage back on your enemies with its command ability.
That's nice.
They're already saying that the fourth Conjure will be here on September 2nd.
Very nice.
So
Alrighty.
that's on that one's on the way. The Ode to Devour quest is on the 16th, and the Skilling boss release is on the 23rd. Damn, September's going to be a packed month, isn't it?
It is.
Good deal.
We also have a new Necromancy Slayer helmet option coming around, which I think makes sense given that Necromancy's been out for a year now. And with this, there will be new Profane Scabarite Slayer creatures that drop an item to create the Necromancy Slayer helmet. This is targeted to release in early October.
That'll be nice.
Yeah. We also got, of course, remarks on Group Iron Man, which we talked about last week on the show. We don't have an exact date yet on when this is going to be, but confirmation that this is here. Dave, how do you feel about Group Iron Man?
I think it's going to do very well for the game. I don't know if I will partake. I think it could be a fun thing. It's not necessarily something I'm looking forward to, but personally, but I'm definitely looking forward to it for just kind of a breath of new life into the game, because I know a bunch of people on Old School are saying they might even come back just to do some Group Iron Man on RS3.
That's really interesting.
I think it's going to be a very healthy update for the game, which is what I'm excited for. So that just, gets more interaction and just, fuels the proverbial fire to kind of get RS3 kind of back to where it needs to be. So
you can say we're so back, because that's how it was again today in seeing this. But Pernasius wasn't on the Group Iron Man train last week, but after our discussion last week, you are? Are you still feeling the same way?
Yeah, I'm really thinking of joining a group that just needs sort of that AFKer who can sit back and gather, do all the grindy stuff for them. I should hit 200 mil in sort of 4 to 6 weeks, so it's just coming out at the perfect time.
It's at the right time then for that, isn't it?
Open a new account and just go that group and just give it a try. Especially since, it's just, you get the right group and it'll be really good, and, sort of, as I said, you can't have all PVMers, you can't have all skillers, you've got to have a mix, so... I was nowhere into it, but after what they discussed and told us is coming with it next week, last week, it really is an exciting update, I think.
Well, speaking of exciting, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say, and if it is going to bring people back from Old School as well, getting new accounts going, such anything that helps out.
That's something I didn't anticipate happening with this. Like, are these people that you heard talking about that people who played RS3 before, or?
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to basically bring people from Old School that have been playing because it's Old School. I think it's bringing people back to RS3 that kind of left in droves last fall.
Okay.
With all that stuff. So basically bringing people back that already were on RS3 rather than converting. But still, I mean, anybody logging into RS3 at this point is obviously good for the game. So the more traffic, we can get, the better.
Yeah.
For game health. So, yeah.
110 woodcutting and fletching, late November or early December. There's new tree, new hatchets, new level 100 ranged weapon, and a masterwork weapon to be included. There will be a right-click examine in the coming weeks with the first details and opportunities to shape the update with your feedback. So we'll have to be on that one, given the feedback we had in relation to mining here, I think.
Yes.
In terms of where that lands.
Yeah, I'll be...
Continuing on from that, we have the first Desert Quest. They're calling this Desert Quest 1. As winter arrives, they are going to return to the classic desert storyline. There's unfinished business with Amasket and some reunions with familiar faces that are long overdue. Make sure that you've completed Ode to the Devourer and Fight Club to be ready for this one.
So they're basically bringing all the desert quests into one.
Into where we
line.
are.
Yeah.
Into where we are right now. And the interesting thing about this, in terms of what they said with this, is that beginning in December 2024, we'll be officially returning to the desert storyline. We'll continue the story with 2 further quests in the first half of 2025, including a long-awaited finale for the desert quest line. So we're taking a very quick turn and wrapping up all this Fort and Zamoragal stuff, I think, from where we were at in Requiem for a Dragon.
Thank God.
And see, that's the thing. You just said, thank God. Why is that?
I don't know. I think I share sentiment with the Fort just feeling like nothing but filler content. I mean, it's like a new hub. I don't know. It just didn't really do anything for me, and I've just felt like I've kind of heard the same sentiment among people that I play with. It's just like, oh, log in and just get this quest done real quick. It just didn't really fit much in the lore, but
it's not traditional RS content is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways that's an indictment of the current storyline. I think there were elements of the Fort storyline, and in particular Requiem for a Dragon, that were truly great. Actually, I'll say Requiem for a Dragon itself was one of those quests that was very close to being 5 out of 5 for me when we did that. But of course, folks who will have listened to Quest Week will know that it's very difficult for me to give 5s to quests unless it, utterly blows our socks off. I think Requiem for the Dragon was the beginning of that course correction, but I share that sentiment too, that I think a lot of the stuff that we've had following our exit from the Elder God Wars has been them trying to, in effect, find a different way of doing storytelling for the game. But I think what was lost in a lot of that was the very traditional feel of RuneScape questing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it also comes down to the fact of, you are correct. There were really good elements in that arc. I think just with the state of the game and just kind of lack of updates due to just the ecosystem of the game at the time, it just felt like they were just dragging it out like way, way, way too long. So I think that's kind of also why I'm like, thank God, like, let's move on. Not necessarily that it was just a terrible overall, but it's like, okay, finally, like, we can move forward. Let's start something new, because it just, to me, it feels like we've been in this Fort arc for like 2 years, and it hasn't even been like really a full year. It hasn't been
2
yet.
years.
Right. It just feels a lot longer, but it's also been lack of updates. And just when it was an update, it just seemed to be yet another Fort update. And again, some were good, some were clearly filler. So it's just nice to be like, yes, let's move on to like the desert. Let's just a change of scenery. Let's move forward. Like, breath of fresh air. That's kind of where my sentiment lies as well.
Yeah. And I think what we're seeing with this roadmap is a return to classic RuneScape style content. I said this as soon as I read the post and then watched the video. This feels like an old school RuneScape roadmap, dare I say it.
Yeah.
But with
100%.
RS3 level content. And that's what I said as soon as I started playing old school in earnest earlier this year, is that I want RuneScape 3 to have this kind of content, but with the RuneScape, 3 graphics, user interface, and combat system on it. And it looks like we're getting this for the tail end of the year and into 2025. So I am very, very pleased with this.
Yes.
You might be very pleased about this next one. The next skill to go to 110 after woodcutting and fletching will be rune crafting.
Very interested in that. I don't think they really touched on it.
No,
so just
very light in details.
Kind of seeing what they're going to do with it. Is it going to be new runes, new methods, possibly some sort of activity mini game? I feel like the possibilities are not endless, but definitely the door is open, and I think they could do some really good things with it. So
they said this update will define rune crafting as this clear skill for creating magic weapons.
Interesting. I do kind of like that. I always wondered, you got smithing for melee weapons, you have crafting for
ranged armor.
And kind of they just lumped magic stuff into it. So like rune crafting would be, that makes a lot of sense. That would be really cool to kind of be the production skill for magical equipment.
Yeah,
that's cool.
and
I like that.
I'm wondering what they're going with here, because there's a Stone of Jazz in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that got blown up.
Yeah.
So I don't exactly know if that's just meant to be an inspirational cosmetic, or if we're to read something into that.
No, it's, yeah, I think if that's the direction they're going, I mean, truth be told, you can't really add too many more runes into the game without adding spells and
well, you have the
or
Wrath
spell
runes
books.
in old school, right?
Right. So, I mean, they can't really get too crazy with that. I mean, maybe a new rune, but then again, it's like, okay, so what does that rune do? Because again, you're going to either have to have...
Souls are 91 and Bloods are 77, right?
I believe so, yes.
And...
the Rune of Mystery at 99.
And...
But again, I mean, they would have to, along with that, I mean, it would almost need to be a 110 rune crafting in Magic, because they're going to have to add spells to use it, unless they just go completely off the deep end and you use this rune for something completely different. Maybe it's a rune that you use to make the equipment or something like that. But you would need a new spell book and or new spells if they were to introduce runes. So it would be very interesting to see where they kind of go with it.
If they were to keep on the same path they were on of, adding runes, soul runes are level 90, bloods are 77, deaths are 65. That's an increase of 12, 13. So 14 with that. So if you increase 14 from 90, you get level 104, theoretically, for a rune if they were to go that way.
Right.
But okay, that'll be interesting to watch. We'll keep our eyes open for that one. New story quest, which is Desert Quest 2, and I'm very cautious here. You see Desert Word 2, your first thing is Desert Treasure 2, but I don't think we're going that way here.
No. That would be very interesting, though.
As much as RS3 players would like to get Desert Treasure 2 amongst the other old school Grandmaster quests, I think, where it makes sense in their own version.
Yeah.
We're also getting combat achievements from Easy to Grandmaster, which is something...
a little nervous.
Okay.
And that's just not in a bad way. I'm definitely on my own island here. It's good because it's like, okay, we're bringing in some stuff that people like about old school. We're bringing in here. I know that and this is just, could be an unfair comparison, but I know some of the combat achievements in old school are pretty gnarly. Combat achievements are almost guaranteed going to be trim. And I've been trimmed since 2019 and I've maintained it. But if, we're trying to do,
you gotta learn how to PVM.
Well, right. And you got to learn how to get creative with it. And, doing 5 Jads in under 3 minutes with less than blah food. I mean, of these achievements.
You can do that with necromancy. So, I mean, like that's the old school one, obviously. But
correct. So, I mean, and being like maxed and trimmed, like I'm sure the Grandmaster are not going to be that hard. But that will, again, that's going to be a big piece of content. That's going to not just be, hey, let's AFK this and like maintain trim. So that could be very good, but also very gnarly, as I said before, with some of the different things they have on there. So that will definitely be a very content-packed month, week, whatever it's going to be. So definitely going to be a full... To give people an example, one of the combat achievements on old school in the Grandmaster tier is to kill Zuck without equipping any range or mage weapons before wave 69. That's how long that Zuck fight goes in old school. And people who have plugged in their accounts to the wiki and used the RuneLite client, only 0.7% of people have completed that achievement. So, I mean, again, I have no problem with, new achievements and stuff. But,
and that's why I pulled this out, to just give people an idea of what a Grandmaster combat achievement could look like.
Sure.
Like we're looking at something beyond like 4K Telos or Glacier probably.
Right.
So just to kind of, set the stage of where we're at here. on this,
Yeah.
because I think there has been this perception over the last year and a bit that combat has become stupidly easy in RS due to necromancy. And the people I talk to week tell me that that's, not the case. Necromancy has made it easier, but there's still things that that they still run into problems with. So there's going to be a lot of people who are going to do these Grandmaster achievements, but there's also people who are going to have a difficult time moving out of medium and into hard and trying some of the elite ones. So
right.
I understand what you said now for that.
Be a very divisive update.
It could be.
Definitive, but divisive, possibly. So
yeah,
we'll see. I think they'll do well.
I think I have one more that's maybe a bit more divisive for you.
Okay.
For the spring, the skilling rebalance.
I could see that.
Listed in the blog post as skilling profitability, but on the graphic, the skilling rebalance.
Mm-hmm.
Which they said, while it's great to bring new skilling content to much loved skills, there was a strong response from skillers on the survey that we also need to put a focus on skilling profitability. So they said skilling has increasingly felt less competitively profitable than avenues like bossing, and it's clear you'd like us to see that gap close. Skilling has more viable methods, or they want to ensure that skilling has more viable methods for strong GP income. So in 2025, there will be a content-sized project addressing this, either by introducing something new or by taking an extensive look at balancing existing content.
I think that's good, and I think I was part of the survey that said we need more skill for sure. Because this has been a problem in RS2, and just has kind of creeped up even in both games to where it's like you do skilling to like get your account up, but you boss for money. Like very rarely.
Yeah,
there's
like the only,
cases,
like the easiest money makers skilling wise is farming in both games.
Right.
And aside from that, you're looking at stuff that's just not competitive PVM, and to PVM, and you rather just learn.
Correct. So it's I would like therefore to be things to where you don't have to make killing 5,000 enraged Zamorak be equivalent to some crafting method. Like, no, absolutely not. But when you have a max enrage Zamorak at, call it 180 mil an hour, the closest skilling method after that is like 4.7 mil an hour making combination runes. It's like it's not in the
same league. It's
not even close. It's not even a factor of 20. Yeah. And it's such a lean forward method of skilling. It's just ridiculous. Like if they want to rebalance this, like do it to where doing something of intensity of making lava runes is, I don't know, 100 mil an hour, just so to speak. I mean, even just half of what the max PVM stuff is, just so it's bosscape. I mean, it's PVMscape. It really has. If you want money, it's PVMscape.
Right. And
skilling is just to max an account.
Like if you look at the money making guide today, right now, Raziel is 98 mil an hour.
Yeah.
So, where do you come in on this, Burn? I know skilling side and
love it.
Whatnot.
Yeah. No, I voted for skilling rebalanced as well. I said that was very important. Everyone knows my thoughts. I am a bit of an all rounder. I hate seeing primary skilling drops on any creatures when I kill if I boss, especially bossing, but even in Slayer, just dropping things like salvage or just go the outright coins for now. There's that many coins coming in. Yeah, okay, you drop salvage and I've got to break it down and such, but it's still coins coming into the game. We've seen what seeds are like. I mean, seeds that used to cost 3, 4, 5, 10,000 GP are now 300 or 400 GP. The herbs themselves are still good, but logs. I mean, magic logs at 200 GP and things like that. There is very little skilling in game.
Yeah, you have to be very like, I'm going to say two things about this, is that it needs to be done obviously very cautiously in relation to what Timbo and The Economist have to say, bringing that one out again. And the skillers in general, anybody who is a skilling person needs to be willing when the time comes, when this discussion of this update starts rolling around, to be willing to jump in and start having the conversation about this and advocating for it if you're a skiller. Because, you know, I feel like the straight up knee-jerk reaction from the PVM community is going to be immediately, no, don't do this.
Oh, of course, yeah. They don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to affect themselves. But you know, this game is so unique in that skilling is a big part of the journey. A lot of other games out there, you know, like you can hit top tier fishing in a day, but those games are concentrated around their
end game
PVM raids and all that type of stuff. This game is concentrated on the whole journey. I mean, that leveling up of everything. And yeah, when you're just doing a skill to hit 99 because you want that max cape because it's a good cape for PVMing and such, it hurts the game. And I think getting a good balance there, and I'm not saying that, you know, skilling needs to make 98 million an hour like Raziel, but it's got to be better than, you know, sort of the 1 or 2 mil an hour it is now. Especially, I mean, a lot of people who play the game do fund their memberships through things like bonds and such. And with bonds sitting at that sort of 120, 130 mil, if you're only earning, you know, a mil or two an hour doing your skilling, you know, it hurts the game long term as well. So
yeah, and you know, if we look at the money making guide right now, and we look at the skilling tab of it, and we remove Croesus off here, which is the first two things on here that they say are the most profitable. The next things that come in are crafting necrotic runes at 43.9 mil an hour, and making extra fine sand with telekinetic grind at 42.8 mil an hour. And then next is catching dazzling whirligigs at 42.3 mil an hour.
And yeah, that, I mean, they're great money for that type of thing. But you know, you've got to your next one. I mean, you know, you should be having a good range of all skills, being able to make that sort
not
of
just
5
rune
to 10 mil an
crafting
hour.
and hunter.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know what the interesting thing is that if you scroll down this list, until you get to things that are below 20 mil, it's all rune crafting, except for that one hunter method.
And even things like screening soil using sift soil. I mean, that's
not a skilling method, though.
No, that's right. Exactly right. That's what I'm saying. Those type of things aren't true skilling. I mean, aren't true skilling methods. Yeah, where was it? I saw one making poison plus 14 mil. You know.
But that's very cumbersome when you do that, because you gotta gather those nightshade from the Skeleton Cave.
Exactly right, and that's what I mean. It's like, you know,
some of it's extrapolated to where it's like almost misleading, to where it's like, oh yeah, you're making, you know, 4,000 weapon plus potions or whatever it is. Who's buying that? Like, there's not a market. There can't be a market for some, you know, and
no.
Maybe there is, but there at the same time, it's like, okay, yeah, the numbers, like on paper, it's great, but like there's not a market for this. So yeah,
that's right. How many are being sold? And that was my next point. A lot of these brews and potions that you make, they sit in the bank. They sit in the GE for a while before they actually sell.
Yeah, and the only reason the necrotic runes are up on the list is because of everybody using necromancy at Sanctum for 2 weeks on Free Death Week.
Yes.
So, all right, that one will be controversial, so we'll be watching that. We also got the next skill will be 110 crafting after rune crafting, and with this, they want the ability to create high tier ranged and magic armor. So fletching adds the bow, rune crafting adds the magic weapon, and this adds the high tier ranged and magic armor. So with that, you see the very logical candidates that they chose for the first 110s was allow people to craft their own armor for those skills, which I think, again, we infer based off of what we saw with the necromancy stuff. And I think if you wanted to be truly successful, compared to the long discussion we had about the primal stuff and whatnot this week, is that tie it in with some other things. Put the plain Jane version in like we got this week with the primal armor, but also give us an option to make, high tier power armor as well with a special set effect. Then we'll truly be talking, I think.
Yep.
I think that would really be the cherry on top if something like that were to happen. Then we got Blooming Burrow returning in the spring as well, and a new combat boss, the Amesket Showdown. Of course, eagle-eyed people will be watching to see if this has any relation to Tombs of Amesket, like they have on Old School. We'll be watching that because we don't exactly know what that's going to be, but it's targeted as an endgame level boss encounter in mid-2025. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think there could be some tie-ins with that, or at least that sort of lore or storyline, because Elidnus, that's a drop in Tombs of Amesket as well, Elidnus ward. So there could be some tie-ins in terms of just that whole ecosystem, so to speak. So it'll be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I wonder if they would just go, all the way forward and just make it, like the RS3 version of Tombs of Amesket, and call it, a raid as if it was, the Old School format. I wonder if
that would be interesting
if they would do that.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that would be something that I think would bring native Old School players to RS3 just to kind of see what it's about. Bringing a piece of content that was solely made for Old School to RS3, be like, okay, like it'd be something familiar enough to catch their interest.
You got to learn the combat system. You got to train necromancy up to 120. Then you can do it, I think.
Exactly. See, there you go. See, it's all starting to come together.
And beyond, late 25, a new area expansion. I guess people chose this instead of a new skill.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I think that, I'm always for new skills, but if this one, what do you think?
What do you think? Do you think it's going to be, Zaya and Corrin?
That would be funny and cool. But I'm just trying to think, what's the last, new area we had in
Anachronia.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, yeah, I guess it's a little overdue.
What do you think, Bert? Where do we go from here with this?
What
would you like?
I'd love to see Zaya and that come in. Originally when Old School come out, when Mod Osborne was back there, Old School was going to be used as a bit of a testing ground to see what players liked and then bring across to RS3, and Zaya is so popular over there. Now, obviously, we've had a lot of staff changes in that time and sort of things get changed around, but Zaya in RS3 would be brilliant. And again, that can all tie in with all these sort of reworks of skills and such that come in. And, you can base a new skill coming around there in the future and such like that. I love the idea of a new area expansion.
The other thing you do is you finish off the Eastern Lands.
I was going to say, otherwise, it'll be back to the Eastern Lands and just finish off the rest of that.
I honestly think that the something westward like Zaya or Corrin or even Varlamore would probably go over well, though you probably wouldn't want to steal the thunder of Varlamore just being complete early next year on that. So
yeah,
they say,
start with, I think,
they say there will be more concrete information about the new area expansion at RuneFest 2025.
Cool.
And that's it. That's RuneScape Ahead. That's what's on tap for the next year and a bit. We'll, of course, talk next week about the live stream. They put out an entire video, and there will be a Q&A live stream tomorrow that we'll be covering. And, reminder, of course, to folks, we are recording this on the Thursday, so we'll be covering that next week on the podcast. But let's just jump into some achievements right now then, since I know we've all been just busy with our mining and smithing this week. So starting off, we have Ferox Kratos with 99 necromancy on the 14th of August. We also have Ormeen with 99 constitution on the 14th of August. Woody got 120 mining on the 14th. Moving on to the 13th, we have Harlot Man with 120 farming. Cliff with 200 million thieving XP. Jad Shore with 120 thieving. On the 12th, we have Dat Engineer with 200 million constitution. Then on the 12th, continuing, we have Edict with 99 crafting and 99 firemaking. And then Pero Picantate, that's an interesting name, with 99 prayer, also on the 12th.
And moving on to the 11th of August, Dane Karai with 99 ranged, Cliff with 120 hunter and 200 mil summoning, Kebab Thief hit 99 necromancy, and Lord Zorik hit 99 cooking. On to August 10th, we have Dumb Dragon with 99 defense and 99 summoning, Cliff again with 200 mil smithing, Pero Picante with 99 Herblore, and Woody with 120 smithing.
Moving on to August 9th, we have Atreus with 99 fishing, Canis Rufus 1 with 120 necromancy, Chaotic Eric with 120 dungeoneering, Edict with 99 construction, and one Chunk Man with 99 firemaking. And then on August 8th, we have Adani with 120 summoning, Edict of Chaos with 120 firemaking, Gold Luffy with 120 divination, and Werok with 120 summoning. All those double XP gains. Love it, love it.
Nicely done, everybody. Nicely done. All right, Pern, what do you got for us for pick of the week?
Okay, this is one no one's actually seen yet. It's being advertised right now on Netflix. It's called Terminator Zero. It's an anime series coming out on August 20. Anime, yes. It's coming out on August 29th.
I never imagined we would get a Terminator anime.
No, neither did I. And that's why just looking at it, it does look very interesting. It's 8 episodes, done by Skydance Television. It's based on, obviously, the Terminator franchise made by James Cameron. It is set in the 1990s Japan, where
oh dear,
where a developer has been developing an AI system to compete against Skynet. And then sort of as Judgment Day approaches in 1997. So it's tying in with
the original timeline.
Original series. Exactly. Him and his kids are chased by a robot assassin, and a soldier from the year 2022 has been sent to protect him. So it really is sort of leaning into those original Terminator storylines. As I said, it is set in Japan. It's I'm going to assume it is originally Japanese voiced, but they'll do either subtitles or give you the option of voiceovers, which are generally pretty good on Netflix when they do the.
Or would it be an English first one, given the universe it's set in? I wonder.
Actually, let's have a look at. We have Malcolm Lee is voiced by Andre Holland. Aiko is voiced by Sonoya Mizuno. Kokoro is voiced by Rosario Dawson, and the Prophet is Andout. So it may actually be an English one. Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
So all the voices other than Sonoya Mizuno are they are all American actors.
I mean, that's fine. when it comes to it. I just found, the format for this absolutely shocking to see.
Yeah, when I saw it advertised on Netflix, I thought, ooh, I've bookmarked it, so I'll watch it on release. Only 8 episodes, which is standard for Netflix
nice
programs
and
these
compact,
days.
limited series in this day and age.
Called Terminator Zero. There are apparently on YouTube some previews of it. So if it interests you, if you love those
Will
Terminator
this be
series,
your first anime?
Does Archer count? No, it's more of a cartoon. So yeah, probably first.
I don't
anime.
know. Maybe it counts.
Yeah, I mean, I do love me some Archer. So, but yeah.
Okay.
But August 29th, coming out everywhere. So it is by Netflix. So it'll be sort of, I'm assuming, Netflix around the world. You don't have to chase it down.
I don't think Archer counts.
No, Archer's a cartoon. So
yeah. I'm not. I have not watched anime before, and this might be an interesting one to dive into, being a first. But I don't necessarily know if the anime purists out there would allow that to be called anime on this. It
was originally called Terminator, the anime series.
Oh,
that was its original name.
Quite the ring to it, let me tell you.
Yeah. So they changed it to Terminator Zero. So maybe you're right. Maybe the anime purists did jump up and down, so they changed the name.
Dave, do you have any experience with animes?
No. Well, I mean, slightly. I mean, I don't watch too much TV as it is, live action cartoon anime as it is. The furthest I got into an anime was probably Death Note. I got like maybe 9 episodes in. I did finish Steins Gate, but those are the 2 that I've seen. I enjoyed them. I just, again, I don't really watch much TV. If I did, I probably would watch more, but it's nothing against anime. It's
fair.
But
yeah. So
okay, well, this is going to be an interesting experiment for you then.
That's it. The only anime I've enjoyed before this was the young lady I knew in high school. So
I'm just going to leave that there. I'm not going to give that any thought. I thought about giving it thought for a fraction of a second, but I'm not going to give that any thought. But that brings us to the end of this episode, folks. End of episode 999, the big 1000 next week.
So close, you can taste it.
I don't know if we ever thought we'd be here for this, but we are.
I remember being on double-digit episodes. That's wild. That is wild.
I should go back into the archives and find your first one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. But, of course, if you want the podcast delivered automatically to you this week and, of course, next week when 1000 appears, update.show/subscribe. We're on all the podcast listeners out there, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Pocket Casts, and more, as well as YouTube as well at youtube.com/RSBANDB. But we'll be back next week for episode 1000. I do have a few things in the can for that one to share with that, so we'll be going over the live stream that's happening on Friday, and, of course, any content updates from next week, and, of course, a look back in time at when this podcast first started all those years ago. But thanks again to the both of you for being here. Always good to have you on.
Absolutely. Buying new episode 1K each. Just saying.
Oh, God. I remember that. Alrighty then. Well, we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good one. Take care.
Happy Skyping all.
See ya.